Hey! We're recording the podcast! Shut up!
Good morning to you, wherever you are, because it is
Morning somewhere!
for July 2nd, 2025. My name is Byron O'Byrne. Sit right over there. She's Mrs. O'Byrne. Say hi to Ashley, everybody.
Putting through a name change there.
Yeah, there's a...
Oh.
That's that goes out to our subreddit user who I don't know the name. I'll look it up soon. But they made a whole post saying what happened.
They
to the
missed
end
the Burka
of
Burka.
What happened to the end of it? I think they missed the other version, which is me. But nonetheless, there's a dumb thing going on in entertainment right now where people are upset because Rob McElhenney is changing his name to Rob Mac, and it's like the dumbest thing to be upset about in 2025. It's just like, what? He had to make a video. I don't know if he had to make a video, but he made a video about it and put it on Twitter. A 1-minute video
About like why he's
it.
making his name change?
Why do we think we could tell someone what they can call themselves?
Look, if you have the energy to put into hating Rob McElhenney's name change, good on you. That's great. I just have other things to be upset about.
Right. But we fought enough about pronouns. Let's move on to proper nouns. That's what we're doing here. But also, it's like if you find out that someone whose name you've known in Hollywood forever was born with a different name and they changed it before they became super famous or whatever.
Or if it's
not a big deal.
Or if it's been like a stage name this entire time, like Emma Stone.
Right. You don't hear the Emma Stone story that her name is really Emily Stone and she had to change it because of SAG rules or something like that. You don't hear that story and go, what a fucking bitch. It's just like, I don't get it. I don't get it at all. And as a fellow Irishman, my name changed when I moved over from America. My family name, it was Clan O'Byron, and we were called Burns. We all came through fucking Ellis Island or whatever.
Right,
and they
someone
were just
said,
like,
it's what? And then you say, oh, I'm traveling alone. And they go, oh, and they just wrote your last name down as Solo.
Solo, that's it. It must have been an Irishman who wrote that bit of the Solo movie. Yeah, but then my name would be Michael O'Byrne. And then later, I would have got a nickname in high school, Byron O'Byrne.
Byron
O'Byrne.
Look, it's Byron O'Byrne.
Anyway, who gives a shit? And speaking of dumb stuff, Ashley, there's something I have to ask you about.
Okay, go ahead.
I don't collect anything. I never really have collected anything. I can't say that anymore. I do collect something now.
You collect things now.
But it's like, I collect it kind of for decoration more than anything else. Maybe this is going to completely undermine my question before I ask it. Labubu, Ashley, do I have to start paying attention to this? What is this, and do I have to pay attention to it?
First of all, obviously, no.
Yeah, thank you. All right, that does it for us today, everybody.
I mean, so I keep seeing them as well popping up everywhere. There's these Labubu, like little dolls. Honestly, they're giving big Beanie Baby energy, right? Remember the Beanie Baby craze in the 90s where like everyone is collecting all these like crazy Beanie Babies and you don't understand the value these things are going to have one day. Do you remember the photo? There's one photo. I'll see if I can find it. It'll either be the thumbnail or we'll put it in the link dump of a couple who's getting divorced.
I was going to say, I think I know the photo you're talking about.
You know exactly the photo. And there's a pile of Beanie Babies in the middle of the courtroom and they're dividing up the Beanie Babies. This is like the biggest issue in their divorce. How do we split the Beanie Babies?
Adults. These are adults. Like, it's a big pile of Beanie Babies, and they are combing through it. Like, you take a turn, I take a turn. God damn, dude.
Yeah. So Labubu are giving me like the new sort of like Beanie Baby energy, where they're these little dolls with kind of like weird faces. I guess they're initially they were from a Hong Kong artist who designed these, and then they've kind of gone viral. And now there's these Labubus all over the place. And we're, of course, running into now counterfeit Labubus. And we're like, oh, which pop stars have Labubus on their purse? Like all these kinds of things. So, I'm staying very far away from it because I couldn't care less. But it is happening. There is a Labubu craze. So if there's someone who's like suddenly running around with like a whole collection of these little plushies attached to their handbag, maybe just check in on them, make sure they're doing okay.
They remind me of the drop today was Munchie Chi from the 80s, back in the era where it was like kind of plush dolls. They all look like they were made out of like carpet, shag carpet, with hard plastic
leftover.
faces.
Yeah, these are kind of like that.
Yeah, that reminds me of those.
If you look at Labubu, just Google it, whatever. That's what they look like. It's these little plushies with kind of the plastic face on them.
And they come from Hong Kong.
Yeah, so it was created by Hong Kong artist Casing Lung, and then distributed by designer toy brand Pop Mart.
Okay.
So I guess their distinctive features are the long ears and the wide grins and stuff. So like they have like a specific look, and they do come from initially a specific artist and this company Pop Mart. But as you can imagine, as with anything, someone else goes, "Oh, I can make that." And then make all these like knockoff Labubus. That's how you know you've made it. Is when people are knocking them off and calling them La Rob Max.
We're actually a little bit behind the curve here because they were big in Thailand last year. So America is behind the curve. The Western world.
Always happens. Yes.
They came from Hong Kong. Now they're in Thailand. Then they're moving on to the Western world.
And they're finally getting to us.
An array of sunshine in this whole discussion about this. Maybe this is a good example. Maybe tariffs aren't all bad things. maybe there's a good side to it.
This is, Bernie, I think this might just be like another version of moving away from the US dollar as like where to hold your value.
Invest in Labubu.
Right? You can buy Bitcoin or you can buy Labubu. Make your choice wisely.
Make a choice. See, that's the thing, right? That's the thing. Once something becomes a collectible, right?
Right.
A collectible, it starts to immediately decline in value. Right.
Or depends on the thing. Sometimes if it's one of those very few things that manages to be very valuable and collectible over a long period of time, that value can increase dramatically. And you just don't know.
And they can do, enforced or manufactured scarcity where they put out less of a thing and that's it. But there's some things like Beanie Babies, for example, they put out a ton of them. And because one or two were limited, then they got a high price tag and then they all suddenly became collectible, but that's not necessarily the case. Basically what I'm getting at is popular does not equal collectively valuable. Always.
Yes, that's correct. In fact, a lot of times, if there are a lot of them available, they're not going to hold their value.
I'm going to speak to people in the future now. I'm talking like 10 or 15 years from now, maybe even 2025.
All right, so set the petty reminder on your phone and check back in on this episode in 25 years.
You people tuning in 2050, first of all, thank you for joining us, both the humans and
I hope you're doing okay.
Artificial sentients that are listening to this. If you want to have a collectible that's going to make a bunch of money, you talk about buying low, selling high, go buy a Cybertruck and put it in a garage. 20 years from now, you bust out a Cybertruck. You got to buy stuff. It's
going to be the new DeLorean, right?
Exactly. You got to buy something when everybody's dogging on it and like, why the fuck would you buy it? That's going to be an incredibly collectible thing. It really will.
It's going to be in all the retro future sci-fi movies one day. But Bernie, speaking of all the sentient intelligences joining us for the podcast, have you been keeping an eye on this ongoing sort of controversy with AI generated music on Spotify? There's been a lot of artists complaining about this for some time now about music on Spotify, a lot of AI generated stuff being pushed into generated playlists, with the theory being that it's so Spotify doesn't have to pay out royalties, right? They put in something AI generated and then that's it.
Wait, so Spotify is doing that first party? Because they would still have to pay royalties if just some random dude is doing it.
I guess. But there's a new band on the scene that has been raising a lot of red flags with people. It's this band called The Velvet Sundown. And it's been getting hundreds of thousands of streams every month on Spotify.
Right.
But there's no record of this band existing.
What?
Right. And so like if you go to their Instagram account, Bernie, this is the most AI band of all time.
Velvet Sunset?
The Velvet Sundown.
Velvet Sundown.
Yeah, so it's not the Velvet Underground, it's the Velvet Sundown.
Even sounds like an AI name.
It does, right? But they've been raising a lot of red flags, people being like, there's no record this band actually exists, but it's getting hundreds of thousands of streams. How? Why? What is happening here? And this band that doesn't exist has just put out like a big statement on X that they say it's absolutely crazy that so-called journalists keep pushing the lazy, baseless theory that the Velvet Sundown is AI generated with zero evidence. Not a single one of these quote writers has reached out, visited a show, or listened beyond the Spotify algorithm. But There's a lot of things about this that still don't make any sense. Like, once again, no one could find the existence of any members of the band. Even their Spotify description about the band referenced like Billboard articles about them that don't exist.
So clearly AI.
Yes.
Here's what I'm hoping. Listening to you say all this, I hope they're actually really real dudes. And they're leaning into this as hard as they possibly can. And they're like, and then they'll go on a talk show and people will still be saying like, no, that has to be fake. That's a deep fake or something like that. You could have a whole career at this point based on that.
Their first live show is going to be a banger. All right. That's going to be like one to turn up to. It's like the first live show of this band to like, if it's real dudes like proving their own existence.
If they are real dudes. If they are real dudes and they're already getting so much hype because of this and so many people know about them because of this AI controversy, free advice. Your first like big live stadium gig should be opening for the ABBA hologram show. That should be what you do. Lean into it so fucking hard. Oh my God. Yeah. So do you think, are they real or are they?
I'm leaning towards AI generated.
I think they're probably AI. The likelihood is that they're AI.
You know, the fact that like there's not even a real photo that exists of the band. Their Instagram account is absolutely ridiculous. It's like a study that someone is doing a social experiment somewhere. They're using every AI generation tool under the sun to make this band that doesn't exist seem like it exists. It's almost like the new version of what was that like blue-haired hologram musician idol? Do you remember what I'm talking about? There was like a musician that doesn't exist.
You talking about gorillas?
No. I'm talking about there was like some.
You say blue hair, that makes me think of an old lady.
No, it's like I'm thinking of like a Japanese pop star anime type girl, right? And she was a pop star. There have been video games about this character. She's done tours, and she's never existed.
Lollipop Chainsaw?
No, but that's a great game.
I'm so far away from everything at this point.
Hold on, let me go.
When you say blue hair dancing,
hologram,
I'm now thinking of
pop star
Ana de Armas's cameo as a dancing girl
Hatsune Miku
in a hologram in Blade Runner 2049. Actually, I would prefer to think about Ana de Armas and not whatever you got over there queued up.
No,
so
I'm talking
let me think about this.
Hatsune Miku, the Japanese pop star that doesn't exist.
Okay.
Right. So this has been a thing. This is for like 10 years, I think, that Hatsune Miku's been around. And this seems like a new version of that, but more subtle, right? In that they have like all these things and they're pretending to be very, very real without actually existing. They just haven't done a hologram show yet until they open for ABBA.
Well, we've been talking about this for years and years. There's the Instagram influencer Lil Miquela. And
yes,
she was in Calvin.
Who also doesn't exist.
Who doesn't exist. I mean, can we say that anymore? That she doesn't exist? She's artificial.
She doesn't exist in the physical realm as we know it.
Like, you would, like for instance, you wouldn't say, like when some kid goes, I really like Mickey Mouse, you wouldn't go, you know, Mickey Mouse
isn't real.
Doesn't exist. It's like, it's a weird thing to say that Mickey Mouse.
That's true, but Mickey Mouse isn't pretending to be a human, right? I think there is some.
Isn't he driving a fucking steamboat wearing pants?
Is there some value in gatekeeping humanism?
Fucking these mice taking our acting jobs.
I mean, there are 2.4 million people who follow Lil Miquela on Instagram. 2.4 million.
I feel like she's fallen off a little bit. That's interesting. I would have assumed I was going to look her up too. I was assuming at this point she was up to like 10 million or whatever.
It's because all of her fans are off listening to the Velvet Sundown.
Sundown. Yeah, but this has been going on forever. I mean, even going all the way back to the 80s during the summer of Munchie Ashley. They had the Max Headroom was a person like that where you didn't know if he was a CG generated person. It was actually more interesting and novel back then. Like Max Headroom would go on talk shows and things like that. But it was really just a dude, an actor who you would definitely recognize if you saw him out of the makeup, you know, wearing this like plastic hair and this like angular suit and everything. And yeah, it was really popular, but it was only popular for like a year.
But as a thought experiment, right? But did anyone think that Max Headroom was like a real regular dude?
I mean, I think there was a little bit of controversy of whether or not he was actual like what would have been the 80s version of artificial intelligence. Because there was movies like War Games and like they told the general audience who was learning about computers all the things that computers could do, even though they couldn't. You know, like Matthew Broderick going in and changing his grades in an interface or whatever,
right,
because of his like 300 baud modem or whatever.
Fair enough. I guess speaking of like 80s sort of futuristic sci-fi, did you see there's a trailer out for the Running Man?
Yeah, with Glenn Powell, who, by the way,
Yeah.
is fucking gigantic in that. He's
Got stacked.
yeah, he's on the Alan Richardson plan or something like that. I don't know what it is, but yeah, I really like the novel. A lot of people really like the Schwarzenegger campy version of the novel or the novella, and this one seems to be a little bit more faithful, although it's faithful via the lens of Edgar Wright, which is its whole own thing. So I'm excited about it, but I'm not really excited about it because we're finally getting the real adaptation of The Running Man.
Right. It's just like a new, different take on the story.
Yeah, but it does seem much more faithful to the source material than the Richard Dawson and Arnold Schwarzenegger version of it.
But related note about the sort of like deadly television genre. So Squid Game 3 came out, right? Have you heard anything about it?
I was going to bring this up to you. I'm fascinated by this show that was enormously popular, and it just finished, and you're the only person I'm hearing talking about it.
But people are watching it. There's an article on Variety from yesterday. Squid Game 3 sets a Netflix record with a massive 60.1 million views in 3 days, which is up. The season 2 debuted to 68 million views over 4 days, over its first 4 days. So it's outpacing season 2 in terms of how many people are watching it, but no one is talking about it.
You say 60 million people?
60 million people.
God, that's crazy.
To put that in perspective, for season 2, in the first 4 days, based on Netflix's reporting periods, the first 4 days of Squid Game season 2 was 68 million views. So it's outpacing how many people are watching.
Wait a minute. You lost me there. 68 was last season, but 60 is this season?
But there's slightly different reporting periods because Squid Game season 2 came out like a day earlier in the week. Netflix's reporting period is week to week. So Squid Game 2, in its first 3 days, had 68 million views. Squid Game 3, in its first 3 days, has had 60 million.
Gotcha.
So it is outpacing it. It's not exactly like apples to apples because we don't have the day 4 numbers at the moment, but it's still outpacing it dramatically. I suspect it's a lot of people who want to wrap it up.
Yeah, it's really interesting to me because it's clearly a hit, right? It's just I'm not hearing anything about it. But it makes me wonder between like Squid Game 1, then 2, then 3, nothing happened. I don't hear anybody complaining about it. Like they are unhappy with the development, or in the case of this particular series, there wasn't a character that died that like everyone got really upset about, like some other series. It's like there's nothing happened. It's just like it's just out of the zeitgeist, which I guess happens in 2 or 3 seasons now.
I guess. And I wonder too if it's a little bit like remember at the beginning of the pandemic, there was a huge spike in people who were playing Plague Inc. And then it really fell off, right? People got sort of exhausted by it, and they were like, I don't need to focus on this right now. Let's bring in something that will make me happy. Bring me Animal Crossing.
Yeah.
Right. Went in a different direction, went more like bubblegummy and comforty. I wonder if this is kind of the similar thing where like at first the whole rich people wearing gold masks watching the poor fight to the death over scraps was like,
that's the dream.
feeling really like, subversive and like, yeah, this is, like this fascinating thing. And now everyone feels like I'm living too close to this reality.
Yeah.
And I don't like, I'm not as interested in this anymore as a work of fiction.
I get what you're saying, but like Plague Inc., wouldn't that translate to lower numbers, right? This is something different. Like people are still watching it. And
I guess that's
they're
true.
still going to see it, and tuning into it, but they're just not talking about it.
Yeah, there's just no talk. I'm not seeing almost any chatter about it. I was expecting to, like, after when season 2 came out, at least I was like, everyone was like, oh, here's like all the pop stars who were actually who were in Squid Game that you didn't spot, or like here's all the other stuff that these people have been in, or like did you notice this crazy detail? I'm not seeing any of that, and right now I'm pretty far into the Korean media algorithm. I should be seeing that stuff.
You should be seeing that stuff for sure. And it's like, I don't think I'm spoiling anything by saying this. A big part of it's almost like a mystery box, actual mystery show, because it's at the end of this, who's going to be left alive? Like, that's a big deal. I'm assuming a lot of people die towards the end of the finale. Do you think there'd be a lot of chatter around that? Like, I don't even know. Like, there's no spoilers out there about who survived and who didn't.
Yeah, and maybe that's part of it too, is like those of us who have seen it wanting to preserve the experience for those who haven't. This is our Rocky gatekeeping moment.
Yeah.
Where it's like we're like just preserve it for those who are maybe still watching. Maybe the conversation will happen soon. I don't know, but it's very weird to me that I'm seeing so many people watching it but no one talking. That's just a weird thing that I'm noting.
Right. Who's the final squid? That's what I want to know.
Who's best squid? And is it going to be a keychain? Will it be collectible? How many of them will be available?
Who got most improved squid? All right, Ashley, who are 2 of our 9 tentacles we will be thanking today?
All right, big thanks to Tentacles, Lance Plummer, and Dylan Pruitt for sponsoring this episode of our show at patreon.com/morningsomewhere.
All right, well, that does it for us today, July 2nd, 2025. We will be back to talk to you tomorrow. We hope you will be here as well.
Bye, everybody.